just monkeying around, you know? No, 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 no.
Here at Burman University in the Outdoor Leadership Program, one of the things we work on really hard is preparing folks to go out and to feel comfortable being effective, safe, and professional leaders. It's a long journey. It's not somewhere you get just by flicking a switch or taking just one class. It's something that comes together over time. We like to think it happens over many classes and many experiences as part of the Outdoor Leadership Program, but even more important, it's what our students go out and do in their summers. It's the jobs they take. It's the practicum or volunteer placements that we arrange. That's what gives them the opportunity to truly become professionals. It goes beyond that, however. We also need to partner with organizations that recognize professional standards. So we do our best to locate those organizations and then work to pursue certifications for our students. One of the ones that we do offer is through Outdoor Council Canada. And this organization designed an entire curriculum to help people become safe and effective planners and leaders of led outdoor experiences. It's not about technical skills, it's about the skills in your head. It's the decision-making skills. It's the ability to make teams. It's the ability to look at a scene and go, I can handle this. I know what the risks are. I can find a safe way for my people. I can keep them safe. One piece of being a leader is this thing on my back, the backpack. Sure, I can go for a walk in the woods, and I do that all the time. And I probably go out with not much more than's in my pockets. I got a pair of gloves. I got my cell phone. I got some tissue paper. And I've got a lighter. If I was out for just a walk by myself, I'd probably have a knife in the pocket as well. There's probably one in one of these pockets somewhere. But as a leader, we have a bigger responsibility. It's not just about us having a good time. It's about us taking care of others. Our focus is always on the people. Are they behind us? Are they in front of us? That's one of the questions we always need to know is where is our people? But what happens when things don't go so well? Things aren't perfect. Somebody sprains an ankle, snowstorm comes in, the sun goes down a little bit early, at least early according to your plans. And that's where our pack comes into its own. Our pack should provide everything we need to take care of our guests in the event of the common things that might happen. Weather, a sprained ankle, minor medical emergencies. It's our duty to make sure this is packed properly and carries what we need. So I want to share a few of the things that are always in my leader's bag. And that bag changes from summer to winter. As leaders, we set role models. How are we dressed? Can we handle the conditions? We need to make sure that the clothing we're wearing is appropriate for the worst possible conditions we expect today. So that starts when you're at home, before you head out. Here, I have a printout of the weather forecast for the next week. It gives me a good idea of what to expect. On my wrist, I'm carrying a portable weather station. And it tells me that the temperature right now is about 3 degrees. It gives me the barometric pressure and allows me to follow trends to see if I think a change is imminent. So starting today, I expect temperatures of perhaps +3 going down to about -10 tonight. I'm wearing insulated bib overalls. I've got a wool shirt on. I've got long underwear underneath. I've got a toque for my hat. Importantly, here in Canada, I can bring it down to completely cover my earlobes. But it's warm, I don't need it down that far right now. In my pocket, I've got my gloves Just a thin pair, allows me to stay nimble. And then in my pack, I also carry a few extra things, an extra insulative layer, and most likely, I'll find a shell to go over the top in case things get sour. So first off, dress for the situation. You'll have a better chance of success that way. So first things first, summer and winter are different beasts. In the wintertime, I'm going to carry something more like an ordinary backpack. If I'm out in the summertime, I'm in my canoe most of the time in the summer, I'm going to be carrying everything I need in a waterproof bag. I don't like tipping over, but I'm aware that, well, I do stupid things sometimes, and I want to make sure that I'm prepared for that. But we're out here in the snow, so I'm going to set this to the side, and we're going to focus on what I'm carrying today. Now I'm going to be honest, I'm taking a chance. I haven't checked the contents of my pack for a while. I'm always going out on different trips. Did I remember to put everything back in? Am I missing something really important? Let's find out. The leader bag. Remember, it's not my bag. It's going to be your bag when you put it together. There are some simple things that you need to cover. Things that every leader should have with them to make sure they can take care of their clients. That's our goal. So I'm going to share how I organize my bag and the things that are inside it. And we'll compare that against the list that we recommend. See how close I've come. Remember, I haven't actually looked inside this bag yet. Could be a surprise. So on the outside of my bag, just a few things to note. Top load, I've got a bottom compartment. I've got a little pouch here. On the outside of my bag, I also have a whistle, in case I need to signal for emergency or anything like that. So let's take a look at what's easily accessible. Signaling equipment. In the outside of my bag, I'm carrying an extra pair of wool gloves, just for a little more warmth. And I'm also carrying a windproof earmuff, or earband or headband, whatever you want to call it. What I like about this is I can quickly take this and I can add it to the hat I'm wearing to get a little more protection for my ears. Or if I'm a little bit too warm with my toucan, I can take it off and put this just over my ears to protect them maybe from the wind, but I can still ventilate heat. Remember, overheating in winter is a real problem because then we start to sweat and then our clothes don't work so well. So we need to be careful. So there's the outside of my pack. Next, we go into the top of the pack. So on the top of my pack, as I open it up, you see a couple things right away. One, I've got this neat little knee pad I can pull out. We'll get to that in a moment. I've got an insulative layer that I can add over my upper body, which I think I'm going to add here in a few minutes. And I also have a pouch right here at the top. So these are all things that you should be carrying. So here I've got my ID. Perhaps I have a little bit of cash in there. I have my health card information. So in the event of an emergency, I can take care of those details. Also in the top area, a navigation aid. Quality compass with a base plate, a mirror. It's an older model. I've had it for quite a few years. The ink on the base plate is starting to wear out, but I still carry it. Why? It's a familiar tool. I can still read everything I need to on it, and I know I can rely on it. So old school, map and compass. I've got some flagging tape in case I need to mark something or there's been an emergency. Perhaps one of my clients has sprained an ankle off the trail. Well, I might flag on the trail to mark where to go off trail to find them. It's a useful thing to have, and you won't regret it carrying it if you need it. I've got a little bit of cordage, some string, and buried deep inside is one of the things that I miss so much when I forget it. Chapstick. Our skin can take a real beating in the wintertime. There's not a lot of moisture in the air, and so we tend to get really dry, chapped, and start to get cracked lips, especially if you're out for multiple days. So I encourage folks, carry lip care and carry sun care year round. So those are the things that are easily accessible in my pack. Let's get into the pack and see what else is in there. You know, I've been kneeling here for a few minutes. My knees are getting cold. I'm starting to feel a chill coming in on my shoulders. As a leader, we have to take care of other people, but our self-care, taking care of our own body, our own needs must come first. And we need to do it quickly and easily, and use that as an opportunity to role model. When your group stops for a lunch break, tea break, a break to look at the view, it's likely they're going to get chilled, especially if there's a wind. So be a good role model. Reach in your pack, pull out your insulative layer, put it on. If you have a wind layer for the wind, put it on. So give me a few minutes here, and I'm going to get dressed for taking a little break here while I share what I carry in my pack. One of the first things we do as leaders is we try to role model really smart behavior. So when you're working with a group and you stop for lunch, you stop for a scenic overlook, take the time to take care of yourself. So immediately what I did, I put on a down vest for a little extra insulation, and then I added a waterproof, windproof layer over the top. Don't really need waterproof this time of year, but it sure is convenient to have a windproof layer. When we get into the main contents of my pack, I've got a few extra things in there that come in handy. The first one is insulation. I carry a foot pad, a cheek sheet, in case I want to sit in the snow. Keeps my cheeks warm. In this case, I'm going to put it underneath my knees. It'll keep my knees warm, it'll stop snow from sticking to my pants, and it's getting a bit warm, possibly some moisture from leaking through into my pants. It's a good move to do. Just give me a moment. All right, I'm back with you now. My knees are protected, my clothes are protected. Now maybe I can share a few more things with you. Right on the top of my pack is my fire kit. This might seem overkill. Why, David, are you carrying an entire little baggie full of fire starting materials? Well, I'm not out here on my own. I'm out here to take care of people. I need to know that I've got everything I need to quickly and efficiently start a fire. We're going to go over this kit in detail in another video. And I'm going to encourage you folks to make your own fire kit that you carry and have prepared for any moment. Next, I've got some tools. Now, generally in the bush, we don't use a lot of cotton. But you know what? A bandana is an awesome device. Why? Because it absorbs water. And if I'm hot and sweaty, being able to wipe sweat off my face, if my glasses get dirty, you can't really beat cotton for cleaning those glasses off in the field. So I do carry a bandana. It's also great. I can use it as a bandage. So many uses for this. I can pull hot pots out of the fire. So I love having a cotton bandana near the top. I don't actually advise that a lot of folks choose to carry a hatchet. If you're going to be using an axe type tool in the bush, it's better to use a full-size tool so you don't get tempted to swing it. This is typically used for splitting smaller wood in a very controlled manner. So I do carry one. I'm partial to axes. But before you choose to carry one, make sure that another person who you recognize as a true outdoor professional says, you're good with that axe. The reason? These things cause nasty injuries. So I don't always like to encourage people to carry these, but it's my bag. I do what I want. Also on top is a good sheath knife. I do prefer having a fixed blade knife. I'm comfortable with it. I use it a lot. Some folks will say, hey, I can get by with a Swiss Army knife. Cool, go for it. You use what you're comfortable with. Also on my knife, I keep a ferrocerium rod here, which allows me to start fires in many, many conditions. As we dig a little deeper, we find some more stuff. Remember, I'm caring for people. If we're stuck out in conditions where we need to spend some extra time, I might need to boil some water to purify it. I could also carry water purification tablets. They're in my first aid kit. But I also like to have something to boil water with. To be able to give somebody, especially in the wintertime, some hot tea, man, they like that. Inside the pot, I've got a cup. I got more fire starting materials. I've got a candle, a few things that are specific to working with fires, and it's good to have it around. And here is my sacred underwear. This doesn't come out unless things are bad. Say I get really chilled. I fall in a creek or a river. Inside this waterproof stuff sack, I have a complete change of base layer. And a pair of wool socks. So wool socks and some mid-weight wool long underwear. So if you see me dancing around in this stuff, you know things have gone wrong, but I was prepared for it. And this has fallen down from the top, but everybody should be carrying a first aid kit that they are trained to use. Now, I bought this one because it was cheap and it had a bag. The bag is often the most expensive thing to have in your first aid kit. So if you find a good bag, buy it, and then build your own kit to your training, your needs, and your environment for the inside. And I'm to the bottom of my pack, almost. On the very bottom of this pack, I've got a zippered compartment. And in here, I have a 3 by 3 meter sil nylon tarp. If someone gets injured, it starts raining, I need to be able to quickly put up a shelter for my clients. I need to let them know right away, I've got you. I'm going to take care of this. We're going to get through okay. I'm going to give them shelter. I'm liable to open up the fire kit and start a fire for them if the situation warrants it. Remember, your job as a leader is to take care of your people. And if you're not prepared to do it, who's going to do it for you? So take the time. Choose what you need in your pack. Put it together and always have it ready to go. This sits by my back door. In a few moments, I can gather the kids, the dog, and I can head into the woods, knowing that I can take care of my family. Or I can work with a group of folks, take them on a hike, and know that I've got what I need to make sure that they stay safe and I can help them get home.
So we're back inside now. We spent some time outside. We went through the pack. Now let's see if I made any major mistakes. Did I forget things? This gives us a chance to explain a few more details of why we've made the choices to include certain items in our leader pack. So let's take a look at the list and compare that against what we found in my pack. We'll begin with the personal equipment list, and this is what we should expect of our leaders as well as our participants. Part of leading a good experience in the outdoors is ensuring that our participants are as prepared as they can possibly be. Now, some of this is a suggestion. Perhaps the weather is so predictable that you think, we can get by without the extra insulative layers today, or it's summer versus winter. But use this as a very strong suggestion, as a starting point. Adjust as you need, particularly as you become more informed and better about making good judgments in the field. On the clothing list, sturdy footwear, or footwear appropriate to the environment. Socks, a spare pair, a wicking base layer, so we're talking about long underwear, an insulating layer in case things get a little bit cooler, and a water wind layer. Each one of those steps takes us from a little bit chilly, a little bit colder, to now perhaps cold and wet or cold and windy, having adequate protection at all times. Gloves and mittens. Even in the summer, I encourage people to carry at least a thin pair of gloves. If you're working around fire, I would say a pair of leather work gloves to allow you to handle hot items as you need. And a hat. Could be a sun hat, it could be a warm hat for winter. For equipment, first you need a pack to carry things, and somewhere in the realm of a 30 to 45 liter day pack is usually adequate for what's needed. For the leader, it may need to be larger, because you're carrying extra equipment. A spare insulation layer. This might be for a guest. This might be for a first aid situation where you need to apply a little bit extra insulation beyond what the participant has. So go to the thrift store, go to Goodwill and get a cheap fleece, throw it in the bottom of your pack. Sunscreen. I carry mine in my first aid kit because I think of it as a piece of safety item and I don't want to be pulling it out. I want to make it hard to get to so I don't pull it out and leave it out by accident sometimes. Lip balm. Sunglasses, particularly when you are in open areas. In wintertime, snow blindness or sunburn of the retina can be quite debilitating and very painful. And so being able to protect your eyes adequately summer and winter is appropriate. Now, if I'm working entirely in the forest, where I'm unlikely to be in direct sunlight, I will probably leave the sunglasses at least put away, if not at home entirely. Food. This is 500 kcal spare. 500 calories beyond what you think you're going to eat during the day. This is easy to do. This is 3 granola bars. This is 2 Snickers bars. This is food that you put in your pack in case the trip gets extended. You're not able to get back on a schedule and you want to have just a little extra energy, little extra calories to get you back. And at the end, water, 2 liters per day per person. Now this can be heavy to carry. That's 4 pounds of water. Now in the winter, we have the challenge that our water freezes. I don't actually have an insulated water bottle that I carry in the wintertime. I prefer to have the ability to melt snow, to give myself purified water in the field. So I typically carry between 500 and 1,000 mils, so half a liter to a liter, and I have the capacity to melt snow in the winter. In the summer, I'm carrying 2 liters of water, unless I'm on the river. And then I'll probably stop, fill up a pot, boil it, or I will use a water purification device. So that amount of water is negotiable based on whether you have time to purify water in the field. Safety equipment. Every person should have a basic boo-boo kit. Small scratches, blisters, sprained ankle. A person should have the equipment they need to care for themselves. Personal medications. Now, I choose to carry my personal medications inside of my first aid kit that I carry for the group. It's actually my own personal first aid kit that I typically carry, and so I keep for myself some asthma medication and some allergy medication. You'll notice here that I did not have a headlamp or a flashlight in my pack that day, and I absolutely should have. Now, in my defense, I picked up my pack from next to the back door and I walked about 100 meters back into the woods to do the filming. And I wasn't thinking about, hey, I'm going out on a long trip. But it's not a great way to role model things by leaving out an important piece of safety equipment. Whistle and knife. If it's a folding knife, it must be a lockable knife. When working in the woods, even if we're just cutting our food, it's so easy for a folding knife to fold back on our fingers. And I've had many severe injuries in both for myself and for participants by people who are using a non-locking folding knife simply for cutting food. They're not thinking, they pull back, it gets caught in the cheese or the salami or whatever they're eating, and it cuts them across the knuckles. So I consider a locking knife to be a safety issue. Now we turn to the leader bag itself. The leader pack. As leaders, we're responsible for people, so we carry a document package. And this should include participant health forms, a list of your participants, and your emergency contacts. If you're working for an organization, this should be your direct supervisor, perhaps your medical supervisor, and of course, police, fire, conservation officers, and so on. Now, in my case, I have those numbers programmed into my phone for my immediate area. And then when we travel on field trips or outings, we have a trip card that requires us to put all that information in place. Weather, avalanche forecast, depending on your terrain and where you're going, you are going to need forecast information to help you make informed decisions. Emergency services under emergency contacts, but you might include the nearest hospitals. A write-in-rain notebook. The ability to make notes, perhaps even to leave them along a trail in a conspicuous location with flagging tape around it. Perhaps you're expecting a second group or you need to communicate. So the ability to leave notes that won't run in the rain is very important. I keep mine in my first aid kit because I can also use it in the event of an emergency or first aid situation where I can then make notes of the treatments that I'm giving, the observations, and so on. Emergency shelter. Spare insulative clothing. As leaders, we don't want to be carrying an entire bus full of spare clothing for our participants. But if you have an extra pair of gloves, an extra toque, an extra insulative layer that you can loan out, there is a risk of damage to your personal equipment. On the other hand, I would rather have comfortable participants and have a little bit of risk to my equipment. And folks will generally reimburse you if they happen to damage things. A bivvy or a sleeping bag. Or think of this as a transition all the way from a little bit of shelter for the body all the way up to full insulation. And I put as required here. In warm weather, we may be able to dispense with this. But if you have a client who becomes injured and is not able to mobilize themselves, being able to provide a little extra shelter for their body is good client care and can actually be considered an extension of your first aid kit to prevent exposure, to control the environment around your patient. We require a tarp, 3 by 3 meter per 5 participants, and of course the skill to put a shelter up to protect people from overhead precipitation or wind. A foam mattress. In my case, I chose to have just a knee pad or something I could sit on. But in a more exposed environment, longer trips, we're actually going to have a foam mattress as part of our first aid kit. Again, it's the ability to raise that client, that patient above the ground, insulate them from the cold, and control the environment around them. Safety equipment. Depending on season and location, you may need to consider things like wildlife deterrents, bear spray, bear bangers, or even firearms. Make sure that you are trained in the use of whatever wildlife deterrent you plan to carry, and that you practice with it regularly. If you are around any form of aquatic environment, you are encouraged to carry a throw bag. So this is a piece of safety equipment that we typically associate with canoes and kayaks. But if we're hiking along a river, we're doing stream crossings, and particularly in winter when there's the possibility of falling through the ice, carrying a throw bag provides that extra measure of security, the ability to reach and effect a rescue should that be necessary. A group first aid kit that should be larger, more comprehensive, to match the environment and the expected injuries. A fire kit, the ability to start fire and sustain flame immediately for a minimum of 5 minutes. Communications devices, and this can range from whistle, cell phone, satellite communicators of various types, depending on location, whether the technologies are working, and so on. A pot, 1 liter plus, the ability to boil water, purify it for washing wounds, purify it for drinking, and so on. and water purification tablets. So if you're choosing only to use a pot, great, but we tend to carry purification tablets in our first aid kit. It's easy, it's fast, and if we need to provide water for our clients, we can say, here, I got something for you. And you're just out maybe 25, 50 cents per tablet. Cheap insurance. So thanks for taking this journey with me through my pack. You can see that there were a couple of things that I left out. I did not have that bivy or sleeping bag. I did not have a throw bag. I wasn't in an aquatic environment, and I'm out in winter, and I don't expect any wildlife challenges. I did not have 500 kcals of spare food. Now, my pack is stored in a location where we do have mice. And so I choose not to leave food in there while my pack is stored. And so I pull that Ziploc bag out with a few granola bars and I put it in the pantry. And my error, I should have stuck that in to provide a full example. And of course, my headlamp and flashlight, again, I should have had that with me. I apologize for that, but it's a good lesson. It's easy to walk away thinking you've got everything you need, but if you don't take the time to check, you're going to make mistakes. The key is, do we learn from those mistakes and we do better next time? So there you have it. The concept of a leader pack. What should a leader carry at all times when working with a group? And a little bit of philosophy of why we do that. And now, I encourage you folks, as developing and aspiring outdoor professionals, put together a pack with appropriate equipment that you can grab at a moment's notice to provide for yourself in a competent, professional, and safe manner, and also you can take care of others when they're under your charge and care.
Just monkeying around, you know?